Good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking out time to join us this evening. Am I audible? If so, you can just use your chat box to type yes. Can all of you hear me? All right. Now, this webinar is specifically meant for extracurricular activities that strengthen undergraduate applications. Okay, what do I mean when I say undergraduate applications? I mean courses you attend post 12th standard. So I hope everybody in the audience is in a relevant applicant pool. This webinar is specifically meant for extracurricular activities for undergraduate applicants. All right. So I hope everybody in the webinar is in that pool. Fine. A little bit about myself and about Jamboree before we begin. My name is Vaishali Madhavan. I work with Jamboree Education, which is the company whose webinar you are attending right now. And what we do is we are a test prep and admissions counseling company. So we train people for the SAT, for the GMAT, the GRE, the language tests, which are the IELTS and the TOEFL. And we also work on admissions counseling for people. We have more than 39 offices in 5 countries world over. So we are a global company. We adhere to global standards. And I work with Jamboree as an admissions manager. I am based out of the Mumbai office. All right. This is a little bit about me and a little bit about the company. And now I'd like to begin. What I want to understand from all of you before I begin is how many of you are currently in the 12th standard? Can I have a show of hands? Can you raise your hands? Everybody currently in the 12th standard, can you please raise your hands? Okay, great. How many of you are currently in the 11th standard right now? Those of you currently in the 11th standard, please raise your hands. All right. And how many of you are, maybe either in the 9th or the 10th? All right. All right. The reason I'm asking you all this is if you are in the 12th standard right now, there's a certain range of extracurriculars that you can perform, right? Because you have a limited time. But for people in the 11th, for people in the 10th, for people in the 9th, there's still a lot of time ahead. So extracurriculars then have to be planned accordingly. Okay. Now, before we get into the kind of extracurriculars, what I want you to understand is why extracurriculars are important in an application, irrespective of the country you apply to. All right. You can choose to apply to the US. You can choose to apply to UK, to Europe, to Canada, to Singapore, Australia, even to top universities in India like Ashoka or Flame or Kriya, top universities in terms of universities which take the SAT as an entrance test. Why are extracurriculars important then? I'm sure a lot of you must have faced this question wherein, the Indian system, if you look at it, it's heavily marks based, right? Your admission to an engineering course in India, for example, is dependent on your JEE advanced or mains or on your local state level entrance exams. Your admission to other courses is also dependent on state level entrance exams. It's your 12th standard marks and your state level entrances that give you admission to most universities in India. So why then are extracurriculars important in overseas applications? Is this something all of you have thought about? Is this the kind of question all of you have thought about? Yes, no? All right. Thank you, Lavanya, for answering. Now, for those of you who have, who have had this question, and even for those of you who know the answer, the reason extracurriculars are important in overseas applications is they want to look at a more holistic, a more well-rounded profile. Now, what is the motive behind looking at a well-rounded profile? The motive is to see how effectively you can multitask. Okay? Why is multitasking important? Multitasking is important because if you can successfully multitask as a student, wherein you're handling your grades and your extracurriculars effectively, then the chance of you multitasking in your undergraduate degree are higher. Why is multitasking necessary in your undergrad degree? Because you will have a host of activities to juggle over there, right from job fairs to internship fairs to professional and personal and academic clubs at the school to research activities to your normal school coursework, right? You will have a lot of work to juggle. So if you can effectively multitask right now, the chances of you being a successful student later on are high. That is one of the chief reasons they look at a well-rounded profile. All right. Now, when we talk of extracurricular activities, the most important thing for you to realize is extracurricular activities cannot be random. Your extracurricular activities have to depend on what stream you are choosing to apply to. Okay? Does that make sense to all of you? Yes, no? The fact that you cannot randomly do extracurricular activities? Okay, all right. Now, what do you do then, right? What I want to start off with is I want to give you an understanding of how admissions officers evaluate extracurriculars. Okay. Now, when we as applicants or we as students think about extracurriculars, we make the assumption that all extracurriculars are created equally. What do I mean when I say that? We assume that someone who plays sport is equivalent to someone who does community service, is equivalent to someone who's done a lot of quizzing, for example. Why am I using this as an example? I'm using this as an example to emphasize that the nature of the activity is also important. It's not just the number of hours you spend on the activity, but the nature of the activity is also important. So please do not make the assumption that all extracurriculars are evaluated equally. Some extracurriculars will make a far greater impression than others. Okay. Now, how do you then evaluate what you want to do? You divide your extracurricular activities into 4 tiers. Let the topmost tier be activities that are uncommon or extraordinary. What do I mean when I say extraordinary? I mean, if you have done fundraising effective to the tune of maybe a couple of lakhs for a not-for-profit, if you've been a rank holder in a national or international level Olympiad, if you've secured admission to a prestigious summer school program like the ones offered by the top Ivy League schools. Okay, so this is what I would call an uncommon or an extraordinary extracurricular activity. The second tier Tier 2 should be activities which showcase your larger achievements. So what you need to do right now, especially those of you who are in the 12th and in the 11th, you need to make a list of your achievements from the 9th standard onwards. And if you don't have extracurricular activities, then the ones you select to devote your time to should be in synchronization with these larger achievements. Okay. Tier 3 would be achievements which are not large in scope, but which are important to you. For example, you've been the editor of your school newspaper, and this is something that is important to you, but it is not a school level achievement, right? In that case, put these extracurriculars in Tier 3. And finally, Tier 4 extracurricular activities could include memberships in clubs, could include things like attending MUNs. Essentially, participation activities come under Tier 4 extracurriculars. Clear so far, everyone? On the 4 tiers? Tier 1, extremely extraordinary extracurricular activities. Tier 2, activities which enable you to showcase larger achievements. Tier 3, activities that synchronize with your smaller achievements. And Tier 4, membership activities. Clear so far? Yes? No? All right. Now going forward, okay, we will come to each tier later on. What I also want to do before I come to each tier is, I want to clear some of the commonly held misconceptions about your extracurricular activities. So one misconception that I come across a lot when we work with students is the belief that you need a lot of work with an NGO. A lot of students think that the more work you show with an NGO, the better it is for your profile. Now, when you work with an NGO, when you volunteer, it is because you have a social conscience. Okay, it is because volunteering is, for one, it's a very generous use of your time. However, you cannot say that you will show volunteering activity for 100 hours or 200 hours. The number of hours does not matter. What matters instead is the kind of tangible impact you've had in the volunteering activity. Okay? So, for example, if you are a volunteer teacher at any organization, look at the big ones, maybe an ASHA or a Magic Bus or a child relief in you. As a volunteer teacher, this is a membership activity. So where does it come under? It comes under Tier 4. But if you have done fundraising, if you have started an NGO of your own, if you are spearheading an implementation program with an NGO that you're volunteering with, then these activities come under larger achievements, which come under Tier 2. So what you do with an NGO, the kind of impact you make at an NGO is infinitely larger than the number of hours you've devoted to the NGO. All right. So for NGO work, try as much as possible to put NGO work in the Tier 1 league, in the league of extraordinary achievements. You may have a question about, if you don't know NGOs, what you should do. So if you are working with Jamboree on your admissions program, we have a collaboration with an international not-for-profit called Tribes for Good, in which what they do is they verify your strengths, they look at the kind of program you want to get into for your undergraduate education, and then they connect you to local NGOs with support work in these areas. So for example, if you want to do computer science, You will work with an NGO to develop maybe an app that enables them to streamline their fundraising. If you want to study policy, you will work with an NGO in implementation of processes and creating fundraising policy for that NGO. Okay. So Jamboree can help you in that regard. Tribes for Good is an international collaboration we have. Apart from that, there are a lot of other NGO activities that are also going on. And if I have to give you the names of a few, I'd like all of you to check out the Take the World Forward Fellowship. Okay, do you get that name? Take the World Forward. Take the World Forward is a fellowship developed by alumni of MIT and Harvard, in which if you are selected, of course, you have to pay a fee, but then they will put you across global teams in working on sustainable development projects. So those of you interested in chemical engineering, those of you interested in economics, those of you interested again in policy, those of you interested in business, any kind of technology subjects, this Take the World Forward Fellowship can also be a tier 1 NGO activity for you. Okay. The other misconception that a lot of candidates I work with have is they believe they have to be excellent at sports or they have to be excellent at performing arts when it comes to showcasing their extracurricular activities. However, look, the fact is that not all of us have raw natural talent, right? Everybody possibly likes to watch performing arts, but you need to have natural talent. You might work towards sports, but very few people actually excel in the sports arena, correct? So to show a tier 1 or a tier 2 activity in performing arts or in sports is not possible for everybody. What do you do in that case? So, for example, if you want to show a tier 1 activity in music or in dance or in drama or in elocution, any of these performing arts, and you feel you're not talented enough to say get a place on your school band or your school orchestra, what could you do? You could possibly look at giving online music lessons to people you know. Maybe you could collaborate with a not-for-profit to give online music lessons to children they work with, right? If you want to convert a sports activity that you're not very good at into a tier 1 activity, what do? You could possibly start a league wherein you played to get a fundraiser going for lower income students, for example. So if you don't have raw natural talent that enables you to excel at performing arts or sports, there are other ways like this in order to showcase tier 1 or tier 2 activities in this regard. Okay, with me so far, all of you? Okay, all right. I'd like to come to the third misconception, which is the most common misconception that a lot of people have, right? People believe that you should have plenty of extracurriculars. This is where I want you to very firmly understand that depth is more important than breadth. Okay? Showcasing 15 extracurriculars superficially will not help, but showcasing 5 extracurricular activities in depth will help you more. Why is that? Because if you showcase activities in depth, you can showcase that you have clearly defined interests and you've done a lot of work in this regard. Okay? Ideally, when you select the activities you want to showcase in depth, what you should do is you should curate contrasting interests that somehow intersect. So kind of make a Venn diagram of all your interests and hobbies and hobbies that are contrasting to each other, see where they intersect, and if an extracurricular activity can come up in that intersection, because that will give them a lot of insight into your personality. Okay. Now, what is the goal then? What do universities or schools want when they look at extracurriculars? They want you to achieve tier 1 or tier 2 level extracurriculars in at least 2 to 3 areas. And the remaining areas can be tier 3 and tier 4. Okay. For those of you in the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, a great way to showcase a tier 1 activity would possibly be to go to a very prestigious summer school. Summer schools that explore your passions, summer schools that are linked to your subject of interest are a great way to showcase an extracurricular. For the past 2 years, of course, summer school applications have been online. But understand one thing, summer school applications are like mini applications in themselves. So if you are applying to summer school, you need a language test, which means you need a TOEFL or an IELTS score. You need to submit application essays. Your teachers need to submit your transcripts and your recommendations. And you also have an interview. So if you want to apply to summer school, which typically happens in June or July, you have to submit your applications earliest by this December and latest by the coming February. Okay. This is summer school. What is summer school? For those of you who don't know what summer school is, it's a 15 to 20-day mini program at top universities. So if you're interested in computer science, you apply to a summer school in computer science. If you're interested in medicine, you apply to a summer school in biological sciences. You choose an analogous field, you apply to the summer school. If selected, you take courses, you do assignments, you do exams, you get to network with the professors, you get to get recommendations from the professors. So summer school is a great way for those of you in the 9th, 10th, and 11th to showcase a tier 1 extracurricular. Those of you in the 12th right now, if you've not done summer school, it'll be a little difficult for you to do. Okay. Keep in mind also that the activity you do does not matter as much as its impressiveness. This is something I have said earlier. So whatever activity you do, you need to demonstrate success in it. Okay. Now, coming to another question a lot of you will have is, what do you do in terms of extracurriculars when you are stuck at home in the pandemic, right? Because if schools were open, if you had access to other facilities, showcasing hobbies, showcasing extracurriculars would be easy. But right now, since all of you are at home and have been home for at least a couple of years, what can you do? Now, for all of you, how many of your schools have school clubs? And how many of these clubs meet virtually? Okay. See, I'm going through the questions also that all of you are putting, and I will devote the last 10 to 15 minutes to answering your questions. Okay. So please don't worry about your questions not being answered. So if your schools have school clubs that meet virtually, I would suggest you sign up for at least 2 or 3 clubs that are in synchronization with the undergraduate degree you want to take up. So you can show your tier 4 participation activities via these clubs. Okay. Once you are part of these clubs, you can also work to revise the materials for the club, like maybe a training manual for the club, maybe an agenda for future meetings of the club. So you can take on a role in the functioning of the club. I would also suggest look at online courses. Online courses are a great way of demonstrating tier 3 extracurriculars, and you have excellent online courses available on platforms like Coursera, edX, and Udemy these days. Okay. So for example, and I'm taking the most common examples here, for those of you who want to study engineering or computer science, physics is necessary, right? Everyone here who wants to study engineering or computer science knows that physics is necessary. Yes, no? Use your chat box. Okay. Now, if you look at online courses in physics, I forget the name of the person who takes this course, but there is a course offered by MIT. The person who takes the course is a NASA astronaut who has the highest number of flight hours in space. Okay. So if you took a course in physics or astrophysics from this MIT professor, if you passed his exams, if you got a completion certificate from him, it would definitely be counted as a very strong extracurricular activity. Okay. So I'll give you another example. If you want to study business or economics, all right. Yale has a course in financial management offered on Coursera, taken by a gentleman whose name, and I'll conduct a little bit of a pop quiz here. How many of you are aware of the names of recent Nobel Prize winners? Use your chat box to answer. Yes? No? Okay. This course is conducted by a gentleman called Robert Shiller. What is so great about Robert Shiller? Robert Shiller is the Nobel Prize winner in economics, and he is also a Yale professor. So for those of you who want to study business, who want to study economics, taking a course from such an illustrious person, passing his exams, getting good grades in his assignments, that would definitely count as a very good extracurricular activity. It would possibly be a tier 1 extracurricular depending on your performance in the course. But again, bear in mind that there are lots of courses on platforms like Coursera and Udemy, right? You have to be wise in selecting which course you want to do. And the course you want to do has to synchronize with your undergraduate degree. So don't take courses in streams you don't want to study in. Make sure that the courses you take have faculty whose credentials are impeccable. Also, when you take a course, you need to participate in the course, which means you need to do the assignments and you need to pass the exams. Only then will you get a certificate. Okay. So you will not get a certificate if you don't submit your assignments, if you don't pass your exams. So the idea of online courses is to treat them as seriously as you would treat an offline course. Okay? Clear, all of you so far? Yes? No? Yes, Robert Schiller's course is on Coursera, Farhan, to answer your question. Okay, all right. Now, coming to the other extracurriculars that you could do from home. You could look at an internship option. A lot of internships are available online these days. And, of course, there is that chicken and egg story, because a lot of companies will ask for graduate students when they look at an internship, right? So how could we help you out in this regard? We have a combination with a company called Belong. which helps you get internships in your field of interest with really good corporates like Zomato or Uber or ITC, etc. So depending on your field of interest, depending on your area of interest, and of course we have to train you to interview and clear the interview, right? Again, going a little off track here, are any of you interested in studying psychology? Any applicants from psychology over here? Yes, no? For those of you who are interested in psychology, you could also check out internships at Fortis hospitals, all right? If you're interested in pursuing psychology. Fortis Hospitals has mental health and mental counseling internships available for 11th and 12th standard students. You do a lot of research and analysis in these internships, okay? So you could look at internships at Fortis Hospitals, those of you interested in studying psychology, all right? So the idea is also possibly to take up an internship. What you can also do is you can, look at learning languages. You have apps like Duolingo available. At least spoken language proficiency via apps like Duolingo would be really welcome. Okay. You could also help fellow classmates by possibly creating and sharing study material like flashcards or exam review sheets. All right. You could possibly look at, maybe if you have a lot of subject interest, starting a YouTube channel to teach specific concepts in your area of interest. Okay. You could look at creating your own website, maybe. You could look at teaching people who are not very technologically advanced to use technology, right? For those of you who are interested in digital media or literature, self-publishing is big these days. You could look at self-publishing a book on Amazon. You could, a blog is easy. Everybody has a blog, but then make sure that the blog contains substantial topics and it's not just stream of consciousness writing. Okay. In terms of, those of you who want to showcase more development in community service, there are organizations like Read a Story. And what Read a Story does is, it's a very interesting concept. It lets you virtually connect with a child in the villages in this country, and you get to read a story to them every week in order to improve their understanding of the English language. So Read a Story is also a good area for you to look at. Okay. Now coming to an important part, which is academic research. Original academic research would be a tier 1 extracurricular activity. How can you do original academic research? You can write graded papers in your school. I'm sure those of you, at least how many of you over here are in the IBDP program? All right. Annapurna is an IBDP. All right. So for those of you who are in the IBDP or the ISC programs, your school teachers will let you write graded papers. Okay. Graded papers are a great way of showing research. Apart from that, yes, there are programs, external programs available these days, programs like Lumiere, programs like Pioneer, in which you apply to them, they interview you. If they see research potential in you, they match you up with faculty, with postdoc fellows from universities. You work with them on their original research and you get a citation, you get a recommendation letter from them. So those avenues are also available for you to increase and improve your research potential. And if you do succeed in getting a publication like this, it would be a great way to show a tier 1 extracurricular. I know MUNs are, MUNs are more or less a participation activity, but then there are some great MUNs that happen twice a year. You should definitely, for example, the Harvard MUN happens every year in December and August. If you're interested in public speaking, if you're interested in debating, then the Harvard MUN is possibly a good way for you to go. Okay. Now, these are a few suggestions on extracurriculars that I have given you. What I am going to do right now is look at answering the questions that you have. Okay. So I'm just going to look up questions and give you answers. I have a question from Manjunath, who says he's a national medalist in a sport. Could it be a tier 1 activity? Yes, this would definitely be a tier 1 activity. In terms of, would it help you secure and admit in your stream of choice? See, extracurriculars are one part of your profile, right? Being a national medalist is very strong, but that does not mean your grades can be lower than the average grades expected of the class, all right? Or if you are interested in applying to universities which are not SAT optional, like a Georgia Tech, for example, your SAT score can be lower than what is expected as an average. So if those factors are in place, and you are applying to a university which gives scholarship to international students basis merit, you could definitely have a chance at both. Okay. KR says he's been in a lot of national, international level debates and MUNs. Does this count for tier 1 or tier 2? The international ones, if you were a delegate, would definitely count for tier 1. Otherwise, they'd be tier 2. Okay. Gursharan Singh says he started an NGO where he connects urban children with rural counterparts. Yes, this will be an extraordinary activity, Gurshan, but you have to explain to them how is this making a tangible difference in the lives of these rural children. Okay. Summer school opportunities, examples. Okay, so all universities have a summer school option open. Every Ivy does, every second tier Ivy does. Schools like Stanford, etc., have a summer school options. Oxford, Cambridge, National University of Singapore, you name it, each school has a summer school option in a plethora of areas. All right, this is Aman's question. Okay, so Rudra, if you want to get into MIT, etc., I'd suggest at least look at the academic publication via programs like Lumiere and Pioneer. Okay. If you are good at performing arts, Annapurna, you translate that into a tier 1 activity by possibly looking at, maybe you can start a YouTube channel in it, maybe you can coach people in it. Okay. People who are looking at medicine, all right, specifically people who are looking at medicine, one very important extracurricular for you to showcase would be a shadowing assignment with a doctor. So I understand that right now physical shadowing in the times of the pandemic is not possible, but once things open up, at least speak to a family doctor. If you have, I'm sure all of you have a family doctor, or to friends or family who are in the medical services profession, speak to them, do a shadowing assignment with a doctor in which, you become aware of diagnosis practices, you become aware of simple things like CPR, like, putting stitches on a wound, etc. Okay. So that shadowing assignment with a doctor will be a very important extracurricular for medical services. All right. Coming to extra questions. yes, courses done through edX and Coursera can be added in extracurricular. However, you need to have passed those courses. So just auditing those courses will not help. Okay. Summer schools or online courses in medical sciences. So Duke University has a human physiology course. Johns Hopkins gives a cancer biology course. Mount Sinai, which is a really famous hospital in the US, they have a 6-month online course on the effects of oncology. All right. There are courses in genetics, there are courses in basic human physiology and biology. I hope that answers your question, Aditya. Shikha, yes, professional divers and flying licenses would be tier 1. Okay. Yes. All right. Yes. Writing a book, if you manage to publish it, will be an extraordinary extracurricular. Okay. All right. Now I would like to. So someone has a question about a karate black belt. It would definitely, you could look at it as a tier 1 activity. All right. Now, what I'd like to do is, this is a general webinar where we wanted to cover as much information as possible on extracurricular activities. But I do understand that you have profile specific questions, right? And profile specific questions can be looked at probably by a one-on-one, discussion better. So if those of you, if you have questions related specifically to your profile, or how to plan your undergrad applications, or when to take the SAT, or when to submit your applications, what schools to look at, etc. If you have specific questions like this and you'd like to set up a discussion with us, I'd request you to leave your name and number on the chat window for me, so we could contact you for this. Yes, it would be Atharva. Farhan, if you've done a 200 million M&A transaction, then definitely a tier 1 EC. Though I'd be interested in knowing how you facilitated that, because that is definitely impressive. Okay. All of you, just a quick question for those of you currently in the 12th standard. Have you managed to register for the August SAT exam? All right. If you haven't, then and you're looking at applying to early decision and early action, then please register for the October SAT. Okay. Registrations for the October SAT are open. Please register if you haven't registered so far. Jamboree, Atharva, we don't directly offer coaching for AP, but we have associations that do. Yes, Jinti, that would be tier 1. For those of you who have questions about timelines of extracurricular activities from the 9th standard onwards are counted. All right. Activities before the 9th standard, before your high school, are not activities that they are interested in. Okay. Yes. So a lot of people have questions about these one-on-one sessions. The reason I'm asking you to leave your number for them is, in a group session like this, talking specifically about one person and how that one person can develop his or her profile is not kind of fair to the rest of the group, right? We're taking away time from everyone else. So one-on-one question session is more private like that, and is anybody who talks to you gets to talk exclusively to you at that time, so they can chart out a proper course of action for you. I hope that makes sense. Yes, Jamboree offers counseling for application essays, etc. Jamboree does that. Vaibhavi, sorry, with your question regarding law, it'll be better for someone who specializes in law to take it on a one-on-one session. Okay. All right. All right. So if there are no more questions, what I would like to do is I'd like to thank all of you for taking out time to listen to me today. I know it's a Sunday evening, and I'm really glad that I got the chance to interact with you, and I look forward to speaking to you one on one. Classical dance, Annapurna, taking this one last question. Classical dance, if you completed your exams in it, if you're doing Bharatnatyam, if you've done your Arangetram, then it would definitely be a tier one. Okay. All right. All right. Thank you for being a great audience, and wishing you all the very best. Thank you. I'm going to end this now. Thank you.